welcome back to the book club. I shall be carrying on reading our story, The Night I Met Father Christmas. Chapter 17. Seconds later, Torval was at his own front door, pulling on his leather boots. Unfortunately, because he was wearing his very thickest bed socks, he had great difficulty getting the boots on properly, and by the time he made it outside, the trees were nowhere to be seen. Huffing and puffing with inconvenience of it all, Torval snatched a walking cane from the pot and followed the tree's muddy trail across the lawn and through the gate at the far end of the garden. Much to his surprise, when he reached the lane on the other side of the gate, it too was empty. Fir trees, it turned out, are nimbler than you'd think. Luckily its roots were shedding soil, and Torval could see that following the icy road for a few hundred metres, the trees had veered off sharply to the left. In fact, there it was now, stomping towards the brow of the hill, heading for the town. Torval gave chase, and soon found himself standing flush-faced on the hilltop, looking across the moonlit valley. Below him to the right was a close-packed west village where he had his stop, and beyond that lay spacious homes and gardens of rich elves. To the left were the Discuss Shoes factory and the closely packaged cottages of the East Village. That was the part of town where the poor elves lived, and sure enough, way below him there was the fir tree, pushing its way through the edge of the forest and into the alleyway. Before he knew it, Torval was jumping down the mountainside and rapidly gaining on the tree. "Wait!" he called. "Wait!" But if anything, the tree put on a burst of speed, and by the time Torval reached the alleyway, it had vanished. Its roots had stopped dropping soil, and the snow on the ground was too hard to show scuff marks. Which way had it gone? Torval never visited this part of town. There were fences in need of repair, overflowing rubbish bins, and battered old sleighs up on bricks. Trusting to luck, he wove his way through the tiny cobbled streets, glancing this way and that, looking for any sign that might lead him to the tree. On a couple of occasions he thought he glimpsed it ahead, as it ducked down an alleyway or pitter-pattered down a back lane. But, try as he might, he just couldn't keep up, and then, horror of horrors, he realised that it had given him the slip. He was just turning towards home when a beam of light illuminated the wall at the end of a particularly narrow lane, and there, in a silhouette, was the fir tree. The tree stood at the bright window of the tiniest shack in the whole of the East Village, and that a shack it was. Its elves were freshly painted in the traditional colours of red, green and cobalt blue, and its tiny front yard glistened with a wind chime and potted shrubs. On the door was a homemade wreath of ivy, wild and rosemary, and red forest berries, and there were paper chains hanging from beneath the windows. "There you are," said Torval with relief. "Shh," said the tree. "They've just woken up." "Who has?" said Torval. "What? You didn't know who lives here?" said the tree. "Of course not," said Torval. "This is the East Village, where the poor elves live. As I keep trying to tell you, I'm rich." "In that case," said the tree, giving him a stern look, "come and take what's it? Look." Torval gave a little snort, which he often did when people said something he didn't much approve of, but curiosity got the better of him, and he stepped forward to gaze through the window. Inside, a pretty female elf with brown hair was putting the finishing touches to one of the smallest, splendidest Christmas trees he had ever seen. "Wow," said Torval, "that is the tiniest tree." "Thank you for your experience." The tree turned to look at him as if it didn't quite understand what he was saying. "That's what you've come to see, right?" asked Torval. "The smallest Christmas tree in the world? That's some serious crafting right there. I mean, those baubles are miniature. At least their tree has, the things that hang down." "Decorations? Oh, so you do know what they are," said the fir tree. Then how come you've never bought me so much as a stand of tinsel? Not quite knowing what to say, Torval simply shrugged his shoulders. Anyway, said the tree, that's not why you're here. Keep, thingy, watching. As the tree spoke, a familiar figure entered, carrying half a dozen juicy sausages on a large wooden platter. Steiner, said Torval, shocked to see his chief toymaker awake so early and in so happy a mood. Ta-da, said Steiner, by way of fanfare, as he set the sausages down on the tiny table. On a serving dish sat a small roast potato and 2 thin carrots, and next to that a jug of watery-looking gravy. And yet, despite it being such a modest meal, the female elf, who Torval now realised must be Freya, Steiner's wife, applauded, and Steiner took a bow. What on earth are you doing? asked Torval in surprise. Having their Christmas dinner, replied the tree. But it's the middle of the night, said Torval. Indeed it is, said the tree, nodding its upper branches. You wouldn't give him the, time off. So if they want to spend Christmas together, they have to do it now. Right, said Torval quietly. I see. Inside, Steiner's wife pointed to the clock and said something to Steiner, who nodded, and took medicine bottle from the shelf. He opened a door, revealing a staircase, and started to climb it to the floor above. Where's he going? asked Torval. Why don't you find out? asked the tree. Come on, up you come.